America is trying to reopen, but a labor shortage is getting in the way. What's causing the shortage? Who wins and who loses? Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Well, it's official. After more than a year of lockdowns and restrictions, the United States economy is open for business. Restaurants are open. Movie theaters are open. Sports venues are open. Disneyland is open. And emotionally, my dad is still closed. But that doesn't count since he was never open to begin with. As vaccines roll out, there are places to go and things to do again. And people are excited about it. Everyone's sick of being cooped up. They want to go out and eat and shop and go on mass shootings. Sure, didn't miss those during the pandemic. But there's another problem with opening up. It would appear there aren't enough workers to keep up with the demand, and it's causing a labor shortage. Some people are worried, from company CEOs to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, to chocolate factory owners. And it looks like a widespread problem. It's affecting low-wage industries like restaurants, superstores, and other retail. But it's also affecting middle-wage and higher-wage industries even more, like manufacturing, wholesale trade, construction, and even government. Yep, even DMV workers don't want to be at the DMV. All this is according to research done by investment bank Morgan Stanley. They found a lot of industries need to raise wages to get more skilled workers. The labor shortage is even affecting the financial and technology industries. In fact, according to CNN, there's an ongoing war for talent between Wall Street and Silicon Valley. But the question everyone is asking is, what is causing the labor shortage? We'll have more about that after the break. Welcome back. As COVID-19 cases plummet, Americans are looking for a speedy economic recovery so everything can finally return to normal. But a labor shortage is getting in the way of that recovery. Businesses simply can't open without employees to work there. I mean, they could try the honor system, but if the take only one sign on Halloween candy bowls teaches us anything, it's that you can't trust anyone these days. This has a lot of people trying to figure out what's causing the labor shortage, because you have to know what's causing it to come up with good solutions. And like so many things in today's America, the labor shortage has somehow become a partisan issue. Many Republican politicians are pointing the finger at the CARES Act of 2020. That's the first COVID stimulus bill passed in March 2020. Among other things, it boosted unemployment payments by $600 a week. The American Rescue Plan lowered the benefits to $300 a week, but extended those benefits through early September. So some Republicans argue that unemployment benefits incentivize people to stay home rather than going back to work. And there is some data to support that argument, and that data is called reality. Being paid more to stay at home than get berated by strangers on Yelp? You don't need a nationwide survey to see what these workers would prefer. So there are plenty of jobs available. The United States had a record 9.3 million job openings in April. And yet despite that, the national unemployment in June was 5.9%, up from 5.8% in May. And that unemployment figure is almost as high now as it was in January, at the height of the COVID spike. If there are so many jobs available, Republicans say, why aren't unemployed people filling those positions? It must be because they're choosing to stay unemployed, because of big government and big Karens. Research from Bank of America shows that this is really happening, but only for low-income workers. So it doesn't explain the entire labor shortage. Still, 22 Republican state governors have decided to end the $300 federal unemployment payments early to try to encourage people to get a job. Although some of them have alternative uses for the funding, like giving people a bonus to return to work. because nothing says this is a great job like having to bribe people to take it. And Republican state governors aren't the only ones trying to make changes. On May 11th, 9 Republican U.S. senators introduced a bill designed to do just one thing: end the federal unemployment insurance subsidy early. Meanwhile, on the same day, Senator Ben Sasse introduced a bill that would turn the remaining funding for unemployment benefits into signing bonuses for anyone who gets a job. I mean, the funding is already there. It would be irresponsible for the government not to spend it, right? On the other hand, the Biden administration has dismissed the idea the labor shortage is caused by unemployment payouts. Instead, Biden and friends are blaming lingering effects of the pandemic. Wait, is not wanting to work at a DMV a side effect of COVID? Oh my gosh, I've had COVID my entire life. There is also some data to support Biden and friends' argument. For example, this researcher at the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco studied how the CARES Act payments were affecting people's willingness to work. He found the government cash matters, but it isn't the main thing keeping people from going back to work. Instead, his study identified challenges to working born out of the pandemic, including childcare and safety concerns as primary hurdles. The problem is that many childcare centers still aren't open, or they are open, but they have a lot of restrictions in place that make it difficult to leave small children there while a parent goes to work. Seriously, you try getting a 2-year-old to wear a mask for 8 hours. We could, of course, get around this if we just remove child labor laws and make kids get jobs. Boom, I just solved the labor shortage. It's time for those lazy babies to start pulling their own weight. Meanwhile, some people are still nervous about going to work in industries that involve a lot of close contact with other people. So according to the Biden administration, the problem is really still the pandemic. But of course, it's not that simple. Economics are complex, and there are lots of potential reasons for a labor shortage. It also depends on the industry. Manufacturing has been hit particularly hard by the labor shortage. And this is not just a pandemic issue. Fewer Americans want to have a career in manufacturing at all. Manufacturing executives say part of the problem is that many young Americans just don't want to work in factories, in part because of fears about robots taking over and jobs getting shipped overseas. And the use of robots is on the rise. That's partly because companies are having a hard time finding employees, so they replace them with robots, which then make people not want to go to work. It's a real catch-22. Or for our robot viewers, a real catch-10110. Another potential cause of the labor shortage is early retirement that began at the start of the pandemic. And some see a link between stock market gains and employment losses, as more and more everyday people participate in the market and make mad money doing it. Stonks. It's not just a meme, it's a retirement plan. But there is one potential cause for the labor shortage that seems to make the wealthy and elite a little bit uncomfortable, perhaps because it can't be easily cured with legislation. What if workers simply have more options and therefore more power? As the economy ramps back up from COVID on fast forward, there has been a flood of job opportunities opening up all at once. On top of that, you have continued unemployment payments, and Americans have been saving a surprising amount of money staying home. Although it's not that surprising when you consider we haven't been paying $12 for Skittles at movie theaters every week for a year. So more people have financial cushions that give them a little more time to make decisions. Suddenly people have a lot more job options and the time needed to really assess those options. Of course, when people have options, they're also pickier, and employers need to pay more to get good people, which is probably why the labor shortage isn't just about workers who aren't applying to jobs. It's also about workers who are quitting their jobs and looking elsewhere. Even the robots. As that one Federal Reserve researcher said, during periods of rapid expansion, it's always difficult to hire workers quickly. When it comes right down to it, there are probably a lot of different things fueling the labor shortage. Whatever the cause, it's definitely giving workers more power, and businesses are responding to that. We'll talk about how after the break. Welcome back. As the economy heats up, businesses are having a hard time finding employees. When that happens, who wins and who loses? Well, one big loser is businesses, since they can't function without employees. So to attract more workers, businesses are offering higher wages, signing bonuses, referral bonuses, and increased benefits as incentives for applicants. Amazon might even provide free bottles for their drivers to pee in, instead of making them buy their own. These companies have all been featured on the news for upping the ante for potential employees. It can be hard for small businesses to keep up with the incentives offered by big businesses, so small businesses are often the biggest losers during a labor shortage. Workers, meanwhile, are the winners. They're gaining the upper hand in ways that no one expected. And plenty of people don't actually want that, which might be why the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is advocating for Congress and the White House to double the number of visas for skilled immigrants and temporary workers. Can't let American workers keep holding the line until wages go up, can we? Maybe that's why Biden is keeping the detention centers at the border running. These aren't kids in cages, they're employees in training. Even if the current immigration situation doesn't change, though, some economists see the employment situation as temporary, like this economist at the left-leaning Economic Policy Institute. She's certain the labor shortage won't result in long-term power gains for workers. She said, because we're in this period of great flux, there may be little pockets here and there of workers having more leverage, but I absolutely do not see any fundamental shift. Nothing about this is going to be permanent. She and others point out that most of the incentives businesses are offering are signing bonuses rather than wage increases. That's a sign that businesses don't think the labor shortage is going to last, because signing bonuses are one-time offers that can easily be taken away for future hires. Wage hikes are harder to walk back. So sorry, Amazon drivers, before too long, you may again end up paying for your own pee bottles. Because you're not going to undo 4 decades of policies that have shifted power to employers with a very temporary surge in labor demand. And that's why that economist argues the solution is a $15 federal minimum wage, or the PRO Act, which gives more power to unions. And those things will supposedly solve the long-term problems American workers face. That's the left-wing solution. Workers and employers can't work out these problems on their own, so we need big government and unions to step in and fix them. But other economists aren't so sure the situation is temporary. And if they're not temporary, then workers will continue to have more power and higher wages. Can you imagine? Applebee's servers that are actually happy to be there and don't sound clinically depressed while singing happy birthday to 9-year-olds? Is that a world any of us want to live in? The chief policy officer at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce says we've never seen a situation where businesses across the country can't find workers like this. And that's why this crisis is not going to go away. But instead of letting American workers have more power, he wants Congress to let in more immigrants to fill the positions so salaries don't have to keep going up. Why stop there? They could keep salaries even lower if they only hire immigrant robots. But as inflation pushes up the cost of living, more and more stories are popping up of workers who just aren't willing to accept things the way they were before COVID, which is why we see headlines like this. There's no labor shortage, just not enough good jobs. How dare workers not be willing to accept crummy jobs and low wages again? But at least for now, the American worker has the upper hand, and perhaps a chance to change the way we work for good. At least until the immigrant robots take all of our jobs. Hey! So what do you think? What's been your experience getting a job or hiring people? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, America Uncovered is mainly supported by viewers like you. So please visit patreon.com/AmericaUncovered to learn how you can support us with as little as $1 per episode. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.